Well, one of the things as well is the language barrier. I feel that this region does have a large Hispanic community, and I don't know how involved or aware they are of the importance of the system and the value that it brings to them already by living here. I think it'll kind of build that bridge of interest to them by allowing it to a more direct connection there.
Welcome back to DAM, the official podcast of Northwest Hydropower. I'm your host, Austin Rohr. If you didn't know, the Northwest RiverPartners team is pretty small. For most of our 20-year history, we largely relied on a single executive director. In 2019, the team doubled, and until earlier this year, we were a two-person shop with help and support from our consultants, our members, and other partnering organizations. Given the footprint we've managed to leave, we were long overdue and in desperate need of expanding the team once again. Earlier this year, we began hiring for an all-new position, dubbed the Outreach and Research Manager. Now, for many, those skills are often juxtaposed, so finding someone who could balance the two was critical to making the right choice. Luckily for us, that choice was easy when Victor Valerio applied for the job. He hit the ground running this spring, and we've thoroughly enjoyed everything he's brought to our team already. We figured it was only fitting that Victor join our podcast, DAM, to share his story and the work he's doing, and we also have a feeling you'll thoroughly enjoy getting to know him better. Victor, welcome to DAM.
Well, hello there. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you on, and hopefully it's an honor to be on the podcast, and we're just really excited to get to talk about, your story, your background. I know both Clark and I have enjoyed so much getting to know you better, and I think our audience is really going to hopefully enjoy getting to know you better as well. So I guess we'll just jump in. I mean, you have an interesting background, I think, with your work with Kathy McMorris Rogers, and I'd love to know just kind of, your backstory before that, your journey to getting to that role, and kind of, how you've wound up where you are today.
Awesome, man. Yeah, hopefully it won't be too boring of an episode, and at the very least get a chuckle out of it. Well, as you said, yes, I am very glad to be part of the team. Very excited to have the opportunity. I mean, just the more that I've learned about it, even in the last couple of months, which is a lot. But as you mentioned, yeah, I did work for former Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rogers for 7 years. I had a great experience there. Got to learn a lot. I had to do a lot of new things, not just from the congressional aspect of it, of representing her, going to different community events, be her eyes and ears in the region, but also was able to do a lot of what we call casework, which is the being that middleman between a constituent and federal agencies, helping veterans with certain benefit issues, certain VA issues, getting to help others, getting whether it's reimbursements or jumping through the hoops of the Social Security system, and again, all other federal agencies. And it was really fulfilling being able to help people directly. I mean, yes, there's always the awesome experience of learning about policy and all my colleagues up in the Hill. That was great. Not trying to knock that. It's just being able to do something for the people that the Congresswoman was representing, and essentially we were as well. So that was great. And again, just kind of going back, as you mentioned, the beginning, the origin story. I'm originally from Cancun, Mexico, born and raised. I moved here into the Northwest, end of 7th grade. So I actually moved to a little town called Milton Freewater. It's right on the border of Oregon, between Oregon and Washington. If you know where Walla Walla is, it's like 10 miles away. I went to high school there. Then I traveled around a little bit. I went to a community college in Walla Walla. Right out of high school, I got a job for a hotel. Oh, sorry, for a school. The hotel was my first job. But anyways, I went right out of high school. I worked for the school district in College Place. Again, another small town. Was there for about 5 years before moving on to the Tri-Cities area. where I worked as an interpreter for a specialties clinic for Sacred Heart Children's Hospital, where I got the opportunity to, again, meet even more people and in a whole different perspective. So yeah, I went from like education to healthcare and then again to working for a politician. So I've kind of had a wide spectrum of different like job opportunities, and I kind of think that it has helped me be in this position, being able to talk to people. I think I've always been pretty free in building a conversation. I mean, even coming from Mexico originally, I mean, starting in a country not speaking the language was, especially in middle school, it's already awkward enough having to learn a different language. So, but I've always been pretty comfortable just starting up a conversation, asking questions, starting something new with being the one that knows the least, and kind of having to crawl up from there. And yeah, I mean, I guess as far as like I said, like a little bit of background, it kind of fits in who I am today, as everything just has escalated in helping me talk better to people, build those relationships with them. And I mean, hopefully it'll keep improving as I keep learning more and more about Northwest River Partners and what we do for the region.
Well, I think one of the things that's so interesting about that background, of course, education, healthcare, is politics the right way to describe? Or, I mean, whatever it would be, but, all very non controversial issues. Some of the,
No, right, right.
there's never any sort of.
Well, I think you'll find this funny even before that. So I said like my first jobs. I mean, I actually did work when I was in middle school, picking fruit for like farms, and then I worked moving pipe at for a buddy's farm when they were doing baling hay. So I got to work at a farm, and then I worked for a hotel as a busser server. So I got like the food industry. I'm like, wow, I really have moved around. I need to stick to something.
That's awesome. Well, I think like the really cool thing though is that also all of those experiences have like this service aspect to it, not in the sense of like, like service, like serving customers, but like serving a community, doing things that, are, I guess, tuned into trying to help people to, better people's lives, better your community, things like that. And, I'm just curious, like from an inspiration standpoint, you know, with any of those three different roles, kind of what has inspired you to take on some of these positions where, obviously conversations and getting to know people has been important, but also like, I guess the drive to like do things, whether it's to help veterans or, to help with translation or whatever, I'm just kind of curious, like what that motivation is for you.
I would say it took me a while to kind of find like a a correlation, but I mean I kind of thought about this a couple of years back, and I would say it had to do with again coming here as an immigrant, and there was just my mom and I adventure us just trying to make it work, and as a first generation immigrant, I mean having to deal with all the challenges of the language barriers, not only for me but for my family. I was the one that would fill out medical forms. I was the one that would speak for my mom, or and then later on when she met my stepdad, same thing. I was the one that would be the quote unquote spoke English. And keep in mind, I was in middle school, high school, making these filling out tax forms and all these other things. So I think it rooted from speaking on the behalf of others that kind of led me in the way of like, okay, even when I worked for the school, I worked for I work for both the title program and the bilingual program, both of them, which it kind of helped me speak out for those kids or those parents when I had to translate, that it just became that, again, going back to that root of speaking on behalf of others. And then that led on, same thing with the hospital, translating for the parents, that a lot of people sometimes take it for granted, but being able to really connect to your physicians or your nurses, that sometimes the parents would have to navigate that system. And not every clinic, even though they should, not all clinics have translation services. And I understand that it's money, but when it came to healthcare, people want to be heard. And then going again to the political or congressional aspect of things with the congresswoman, it came back to that. Veterans, Social Security, people wanted to be heard. And I think all comes down to that. I wanted to be that person to hopefully give them a voice. I mean, we've all been in a situation where we're struggling, we're stressed, we're frustrated. We might not even like the answer, but more often than not, I've noticed that if somebody feels heard, that relationship could stand. And I mean, coming here to talk about the value of like the hydroelectric system, all these communities it comes back to that. It's, hey, we want you to hear from us too. Like we matter. And yeah, I would say that it roots back to I wanted to be able to be a voice for whatever aspect I'm currently dealing with, whether it was working for a school, speaking for the kids, or speaking for the parents in the clinic, and then the congressional side, any retired person or any veteran, any constituent that needed to have a voice with the federal government. It was nice to be able to facilitate that, or at least point them in the right direction.
Sure. Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And I'm also curious too. I mean, I imagine you've learned a ton along the way. Are there any important lessons, I guess in addition to hearing and listening, any big takeaways you feel like you've had from those previous experiences that, not just in life, but, in your professional career, I guess, as well? Any big lessons that you feel like you've learned along the way that really kind of stick with you?
Just at the top of my head, I would say two. One would be to speak out. Because sometimes we assume that we should be understood or we should be heard or like that was enough. It's okay to speak out and ask, hey, did you hear me? Or hey, I didn't really understand the game. Please, like so on and so forth. Or this is an issue for me. Let me tell you whatever. I mean, and I especially noticed that during my time with the congresswoman is just the value of getting out there and participating in like elections. And I'm not just talking like presidential, I'm talking, city, county, state, all of them, just being involved and again, speaking out, asking the questions. I think that really pushed that impact. And then my second one would be patience. I can't tell you how often I've dealt with situation, whether it was a kid or a parent at the hospital or even a veteran that had this specific experience where he came in and he was rude, he was snappy, short, and he had this phrase that he kept saying, did you hear me? Did you get that? Did you get that? He kept repeating it, and it almost seemed a little condescending. But then I kind of noticed that he kept turning his head, and my grandma has hearing issues. So I just asked him, sir, can you hear? And he's like, well, of course. I mean, I have a little bit of an issue. I'm like, okay, it's okay. He was raising his voice because he wanted me to hear it. And after we dealt with an issue that apparently he had been working on with Social Security, it was really sweet. He thanked me for not just, blowing him off. And he actually apologized. He said, I know I can be a jerk. I just want to be heard. I'm like, wow. I mean, it wasn't just heard from a figurative standpoint, but even a literal standpoint. I want to be heard. And it took patience because I could have easily just been annoyed. And I'm not saying it wasn't at the beginning, but it took a second to take a step back, like, hey, what's going on? Like, just talk to me. So I would say those would be my two. Speak out when you need to and be patient when somebody's trying to talk to you about something. I mean, we're all we're all making it work. Nobody really knows what we're doing. We're just hoping for the best. And if somebody knows how you're supposed to be doing this life thing, dude, hit me up.
Amen to that. Well, I guess, switching gears a little bit, and I really do. I appreciate that. I think, that's something that it's easy to say it, but to like practice those things, I think is just a whole other thing that I think we all could probably put more energy and thoughtfulness into to be mindful of actually, like I said, practicing it. But yeah, switching gears. I mean, when it comes to the hydro issue, I know obviously, Kathy was a big supporter of the 4 lower Snake River dams, as we've talked about. And I know you had some experience there, but like, what about hydropower was interesting? When you were, whether it was kind of like in the previous role or when you were looking at the job opening here, what was it about, hydro and dams that kind of caught your attention?
Um, Originally, I'm going to be transparent. I knew as much as we would be dealing with. So, for example, the communities. I was responsible for the southern region of the 5th Congressional District in Washington, and part of that includes Sultan County, and some of the big talks are there. And I got to go to a lot of meetings and hear, again, going back to the people, the perspective from them. And yes, I did learn some from the tribal perspective of the importance of the restoration of fish, but I also got to hear from the people now living in that community and the impact that they would be having with any big change. And so it was just really interesting to hear just these two almost opposite perspective and yet very cohesive, because at the end of the day, you got to learn from you got to learn about how it has worked this way, how it is improving this way. And again, there was just very personal take from it, and it kind of resonated with me because I would argue that an issue isn't really important, like not or important to an individual, unless we can associate with it to a degree. I would say that I didn't know much about the importance of salmon as a cultural reference to the Native American community, but now that I have spent some time with them, I see it. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Or oh wow, that's where you're coming from. And again, it builds that conversation, and from there on, I kind of started kind of doing a little bit, reading, googling, how you get to learn stuff, and asking questions. I then started kind of referencing to living in Mexico and where I'm from in Cancun. It's hot. It is like right now. I think it's like 103 with 100% humidity. It's hot, and uh, and I just remember anytime there was a storm, I say anytime, the power would go out for at least a couple hours. And I remember when I moved to the U.S., I can count when the power would go out. Like there was the times that would happen. It was something happened, something big happened, and to learn more about how that is unlikely here in the Pacific Northwest because of this great infrastructure that we have. It seemed like again another cost to speak on that behalf, and then I was, as you said, how did I get interested in this position specifically? This might sound a little silly, but after everything I learned from the congresswoman, this cause was very important to her, the lower Snake River dams. And it was something she was very passionate about. So I thought I thought, hey, when I saw this position pop open, actually a friend sent it to me. I thought to myself, how cool would it be to be part of this team for this really great cause and meet the congresswoman, and I mean, in a couple of years, and just tell her, hey, look, I'm still fighting the good fight. Something that we learned from when we were Team CMR, something that was very important to us as a whole, and we're still doing it. I just thought there was something cool about it, and I'm really excited that I was able to actually. I know it's not years later, but she called me this summer and just to check in on job stuff. She's and what I was able to tell, she was really excited. I was like, "Really, you're working for them?" It's like it's a really good team, and it was just kind of cool because I was able to say, "Hey, you taught me so much, and I'm still continuing to do this."
Yeah, and I do like I mean, I guess maybe coming from a communications background, being big on storytelling, maybe I have a different perspective than others, but I see like the total, just the connection there and like the ability, like you're saying, to kind of like carry that on and be able to, have that conversation with her over the summer. And to me, that's just like such a cool story. I mean, I just think it's like, it builds like such a unique perspective and everything. And I think that's amazing. So really excited, obviously, that we're able to, to be here talking today like this and that you're part of the team. I'm also curious, like we've talked about many times, not on the podcast, there's so much, coming into this and, even, I mean, literally right before we recorded, we were experiencing this. There's so much that you learn along the way and things that you didn't know. So, coming into this now, I mean, what are some of the things that you feel like have been the most interesting that you've learned so far, like since you've joined the job? Like, just interesting facts or maybe an interesting perspective or whatever. Like, what's really grabbed your attention and be like, wow, I had no idea.
I would say that the most shocking thing, I guess, would be how much I would have thought if you live in a specific community, probably close to a dam or something, how much sometimes people don't know. And I'm not gonna say it's based on like ignorance. I just think it's a lack of curiosity. People have taken a message that so and so told them without being curious enough to research it and look it into. I mean, I was in an event in Whitman County a couple months back, and I would say a good 30-40% of the people that would come up to my booth I had a question displayed that said, do we have more salmon returns now compared to when the first dam was put in or compared to when lower granite was put in? And I mean, full confidence, people would say, well, no, it can't be, there's less or there's barely any change. And we would show them the numbers. A couple of them even pop up their phone and try to Google it because it was different. And it was a little shocking. And I thought to myself, wait, you're in this community. Like, I think wouldn't you be curious about what impact this has? And they didn't. And again, I just think it's because there was a little lack of curiosity and to double check that information. I mean, and we see it today in all aspects, right? Of other daily stuff. Sometimes we just go like, well, that's what TikTok said, or that's what I saw on Facebook. Cool, it might be true, but look it up. Like, there's nothing. I mean, if anything, it's interesting. And yes, you're right. As far as like finding out things, I can't tell you how many I thought. I was like, wow, I know about hydropower. Week one, you and I went to an event. I think it was a Mason PV3,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that or nothing. If anything, if I have felt a little bit of what would be the best word, but I guess that I feel like I'm a little lacking as far as trying to be an expert. And actually, your grandfather said some very kind words to me about, hey, taking in strides. This took a while, and all of us, he's like, all of us are still learning, and he's right. Just last 2 weeks ago, a slideshow that Clark presented. And I noticed a part. I didn't know that. And I popped up my phone. I took a picture. It's our slides. I mean, it's our slide deck.
Right.
But there was a number that I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I was comparing it to other things I've seen. And it is just kind of crazy. And I think that's how this conversation can keep improving is by people being curious and asking questions and being able to have those discussions. I mean, it's okay to not know. I don't think people understand that it's okay that we didn't know.
Right.
But it's not okay to just keep going. Like with the lack of knowledge, we should at least try to get it.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that's evolved. I did a presentation this morning. We all are, out meeting and doing presentations all the time. And one of the things I think's been a pivot for me in the past probably month or so is like, okay, what's when we go out and we talk to communities, especially when you're talking to people who you're trying to teach about the hydro system or, trying to educate, it's like, okay, what's the call to action? Like, what do I want people to come away with? And I think one of the biggest things that I'm realizing is like, my ask is just to learn more, just try and stay informed on the issue, because I think that, that's as you're sharing, as I'm sharing, it's the biggest thing I run into is, wow, I didn't realize people don't know as much as they don't know about what we're talking about. Even if one you'll get a kick out of, when we were in Newport last week, so Newport, Oregon, out on the coast, we were talking to the Chamber of Commerce there, and someone came up to us and said, I never even heard the word hydropower before. And so, it's like, oh, wow. I mean, this is like a huge crash course that you're getting today. But, just, I think being able to like open that stuff up and start, helping people and say like, keep going down this path, and even if it's not this issue specifically, like just try and learn more about, what's happening behind the light switch, so to speak.
Yeah. I see what you did there. Dum, dum. Yeah. And I actually just had a thought about kind of going back to not only 2 questions ago, but a question ago about like reasons that the team seemed like, or the job position seemed interesting. And gonna try to wrap it all together is when I was reading about the organization as a whole, it's just the emphasis on education, like to educate and help educate. And I thought that was really cool because in a lot of things or other jobs that I've had, sometimes this is what it is, which is true. But the approach of like, hey, this is what it is, this is why, these are the possibilities, and these are the numbers to back that up, just seem like such a cool way to approach any type of discussion. And then, and again, going back to the example aspect of something that has kind of blown my mind, there was somebody asking me, well, we need to do more for our restoration. I was like, I think there's a lot of being done, and I agree. I think there needs to be done more. Is it because we don't do anything right now? And I actually hadn't thought about that. How much are we doing as far as monetary value? And this woman at the event, she said, what is it of our power bill? What, like 2% goes to fish restoration? And I thought to myself, it has to be like 5 or 10. That's what I thought. And when I found out the actual number, which I think was roughly 25% to roughly like a fourth of our power bill, my first instinct, and again, please, this is me, not the organization, this is me. I'm like, 25%? That's a lot. My bill is expensive already. But then I was like, wow, that is really cool. That is how much people are caring. I mean, not everybody's aware of it, but I think that's how much we're trying to make this work. And it kind of just, turn on that little, little light bulb of, wow, that's actually a good thing to start to talk to people about. Because I think some people feel that even they are not doing enough. And I'm like, hey, you are putting your money, like you're putting the money in there.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually putting in the action. Meaning, yes, there's still room for growth. Nobody's going to disagree with that. But it's really cool to get people figure that out, or even like the capability of the dams, right? What can they do? Or any other of like our other energy, I guess, options in the state that actually it is, or in the region, which is why this region can do so well.
Yeah. I mean, I I had someone ask me this morning, the day we're recording this, I was doing a presentation here locally to a Rotary Club, and someone made the point. They're like, well, what would you say about the fact that, I think they were, I think they were leading the question a little bit. Some people they make a statement through a question, so to speak. And he was supportive of hydro, but he kind of wanted me to speak to the fact that, like, our neighbors, whether it's here in the Northwest or when you look down to in California or wherever, they're paying so much more than we are. And, can you talk about kind of like the fact that we have this system that has allowed us to keep rates low? And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's, the history there. And I don't want to go off on a long rambling tangent, but the history of like this region saying, we're going to build dams and we're going to essentially put the ownership of the power system in the hands of the community. That's an incredible thing that when you realize like most places don't have that to the degree that we do. And it's resulted in, this really amazing, affordable, reliable system. It's just kind of mind boggling. I mean, I don't know that people in the 30s and 40s could have even envisioned, where public power would be today and what this future would end up looking like. And of course, I mean, we talk about the same thing with the carbon-free aspect of hydro. It's like people weren't having climate change conversations the way we are now in the 30s and 40s, but look at what it's resulted in, where we have this amazing carbon-free resource in our backyard.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, or even when somebody assumed recently too, like, well, all dams have fish passage. I'm like, actually, I know that one. And I'm sure I was like, hey, go home, check it out. If percentage is different, please come to me and let me know, because it's okay. I mean, I've been told like that's not correct, or this number is a little different, which honestly I appreciate it, because it's just a better way to have that conversation later on.
Yeah.
I try not to be as close-minded. Well, I mean, just in anything, right? Like,
yeah.
I've been wrong quite often, so I appreciate good resources like you, Clark, our board members, like just did teach me a little more.
And I think it's so funny. Like on the flip side of that, I've read articles or I've had experiences where people say, they're like, they don't think that any of the dams have fish passage. And, sometimes I have kind of like this thing in my own head where I'm like, they'll be talking about fish that are native to, let's say, a tributary way inland, hundreds of miles, all this upriver of all these dams. And I'm like, well, how do you think the fish got to if you're saying that the dam doesn't have fish passage and it's blocking the fish, but also the fish they're not jumping over the dam. So I'm like, it's always interesting just to like the different range of perspectives that are out there. And I'm glad, for us that we're in a position where we can have those conversations. And I would say 99% of the time, those conversations go really well. It's rare to have someone who just kind of, has a viewpoint like that and isn't willing to listen and is just, kind of belligerent, I guess, for lack of a better word.
I would agree. It is. It's rare, unfortunately, though. They're also the loudest.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes people are like, well, I heard this. Like, yeah, but let's look it up. And one of the things that I've encouraged a lot of people when I'm in some of the public events I've been to is like, here's my card. If you look it up, if you research it and I'm wrong, please let me know.
Yeah.
Like I encourage them to look it up themselves. I mean, we share, the information of the University of Washington. We share data that we get from the Corps, and just again, that is how we build that conversation. Let's have a talk. Let's. And again, it's not. I know some people use the term argument. Oh, let's have the argument. No, let's have a discussion. Go from there. I mean, we don't. It's not about. I mean, winning and losing. We all live here. We should all try to be, win. What was that? What was that reference I said? Oh, I heard the other day. It's like it was referring to from like a political stance. It's like you can't wish for the other party to fall. We're all in the same ship. You don't want the ship to sink.
Right.
Like we have to find a way to work together for a better outcome. But I think this is the same thing. We're not going to shoot each other in the foot because we all live here. We love how great the Northwest. Well, first of all, not only the benefits that we get from the grid, but also how beautiful it is. It takes effort from all sides.
Absolutely. I think too, it's one of the things that I've appreciated that we've been able to do as an organization. I don't speak for myself personally there, because I think everyone that I've worked with here in the past 6 years has felt this way. We've always done a really good job of going out and saying, here's our take, right? Here's, the data, the facts that we've compiled, everything like that. But take it and make your own opinion. As opposed to, well, you should, like, I mean, do I personally think, like, yeah, like, if I saw this stuff, I would expect that I would come around on hydropower. Yeah, and I would hope most people would. But if someone looks at all the data and they still are not big fans of hydro, hey, I mean, at least you have all the information.
Exactly. You're still allowed to your opinion, right?
Right.
At the end of the day. But
Absolutely. Well, as far as kind of like, getting to spend some time in this role, getting to learn more, what are some things that are particularly exciting to you? I mean, when we think about kind of like the future, some of the things you're going to be working on, are there things that you're looking forward to bringing to Northwest RiverPartners, whether it's, building on things we're doing or bringing something new to the table that we haven't got to do before?
well, one of the things that I know we've discussed as well, and you might see the correlation to other previous roles, but the language barrier. I feel that this region does have a large Hispanic community, and I don't know how involved or aware they are of the importance of the system and the value that it brings to them already by living here. So I have already started doing a couple projects. One is one of our one pagers that we have in events. Got it fully translated. I'm going to have that available in Spanish in the upcoming events, especially in some some events that are focused on Latino culture events this month. I'm actually attending one tomorrow in Eugene. I think is the Fiesta Festival in Eugene, and it'll be my first time not only attending the event, but having information for us to hand out in Spanish for the Spanish speaking only community. I think it'll kind of build that bridge of interest to them by allowing it to a more direct connection there. I mean, yes, people can always look it up in English. Some people do speak some English, but I think to having that available kind of reach out a little more. The other one that I'm really excited for is I've talked to a couple friends who are in the education or superintendents, and now we talked about, hey, would it be okay if I would ever be able to talk to like a science class in school, and talk a little bit more about not only the system but fish restoration and everything that's going on there, and they seemed interested. So I think there's opportunity there, and going and speaking to our younger population about for kind of hopefully getting them involved in the conversation. I mean, nowadays everything is social media based, so it'd be kind of nice to have people start looking things up for themselves. And if we start, young, I think it would be great to kind of spark again that curiosity and let them make their own decision. So yeah, those are the two that I'm the most excited about. One is the Hispanic community. The other one is like more going to schools and hopefully being able to present to student science classes.
Yeah, I think that's going to be fantastic. I mean, I think there's so much room for growth there and potential there. And, part of it, as I'm sure you've heard many, many times before and after getting the job, one of the big challenges for us obviously is just like, how many places can you be at once? How many different challenges can you take on? And so, I know I speak for both Clark and myself. We're just so excited that we can, do that, and that you have the capability and the, really the freedom to explore those areas and to really help not only this organization, but I mean, our members, the communities we represent, this whole region, hopefully get connected a little bit better in those areas. So yeah, I'm super grateful for that.
Of course, I'm excited. I mean, there is value in presence for sure.
Yeah.
And I agree. This I know when I found out it was two members in the team, including me. The first I was like, how are we going to get to all these places right off the bat? And more importantly, how did you guys do it before? Gosh.
It is. It's crazy sometimes, but it is rewarding. as I'm sure you've experienced as well. So, like you mentioned, you'll be at a festival later this week. You've got a lot of different things coming up. I mean, for people who don't maybe know, who haven't tuned into kind of what we've been up to lately, what are some of the things you're going to be working on? Where are people going to be finding you out in the real world here?
In the real world. Well, first of all, again, Eugene, I'm also going to be in Moses Lake at the end of the month. On the 27th, there's another Latino-based event. There is Riverfest in the Tri-Cities. I believe it's in October. I'll be there as well. Currently, I'm trying to get into some fair events, whether it's the Nest Purse. I already contacted Washington State Fair that is currently going, unfortunately, and this is partially timing, partially my fault as well, that a lot of these bigger fairs, they start getting their vendors full from, I think, started in March. So when we started thinking about, hey, this is going to be the route that I want to go to events, starting like at the end of July, a lot of them have returned with, hey, we're a little busy or we're too full. Some of them didn't respond to me until after their fair. And it's unfortunate, but I'm trying not to, get too bummed out. If anything, I'm having them sign me up for their newsletters or when to let me know the moment that dates pop up next year. Kind of get that, probably get as many of summer events packed as possible, because unfortunately this season has booked out already. But I'm still trying to do those. If I cannot get into those bigger fair events, I am looking in the same locations, whether it is again, just in different states, mostly in Washington and Oregon and Idaho, but there's still a lot of farmers markets. So at the very least, I want to make sure they have a presence there and talk to as many people as possible. I know it won't be as highly populated as a fair, but at the very least, going to get those relationships started. But yet the big ones that I can think of right now are Eugene tomorrow, most likely at the end of the month, and then the Tri-Cities for Riverfest. Hopefully, I can also get into an event in Leavenworth. In 2 weeks is their Salmon Festival. That would be a really cool one to be able to attend. But yeah, it's taking it's slow rolling, but I am very excited to see where it goes, and see if it plays out. And if it doesn't play out as well this year, do a much better presence next summer, and go from there.
Absolutely. And I also just want to ask too, I mean, you have been to a handful of events, not only just to represent Northwest RiverPartners in like a booth or some kind of capacity, but just, even being just able to attend and be there. Any favorites from, the past few months? Anything that's really been kind of an especially fun or engaging experience that you've had so far?
The Mason PUD3 event was great. Went to the hatchery. I learned a lot. It was really cool to also see some of the projects that specific hatcheries sometimes focus on, like hearing about, salmon or fish being raised in a stressed environment to give them a different chance. Well, when released, I thought that was super cool. It was just an interesting perspective. And I hearing from other hatcheries, that's not what they do. It was kind of cool. But probably the most impactful, definitely the Chief Joseph first salmon event in July, I believe it was, right? Beginning of July, end of June. Anyways, it was awesome. I mean, I got to really experience like that cultural importance, the value of why this is so important to a group of people, and how it's not something that should just be tossed aside. Like maybe to some people it is. It made me think like, okay, this isn't just the fish. This isn't just. No, it was really cool. It was interesting. The people were very sweet, very welcoming, and I got to meet some cool people. So it was great. I think the only thing was it's a little bit of a drive, but other than that, it was really great. And even then, I mean, I got to talk about it afterwards with people, and they're like, "Well, what is that?" I actually ended up doing a little bit of reading about what it means, and I got to hear one of the the tribal songs. And a part of me kind of wanted to ask, okay, what was said? Yes, emotionally, the tune, the passion of the song kind of, hit in here. But at the same time, I want to know what the lyrics meant. And I've been wanting to ask around, but at the same time, I'm like, it's just one of those things. Like maybe it's just better feeling it than really like knowing the whole thing. But anyways, I think that one was probably the most impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like on the, high on the list of things that I hope I get to do in this role. I've heard amazing things about it as you've expressed. And I think, one of the highlights really for us here is that partnership that we formed with the Upper Columbia United Tribes on the salmon reintroduction effort and on supporting what they're doing because as you expressed, I mean, it is so important. There is such a strong value there, and sometimes it's like I feel like a broken record because we talk about it so frequently. And I mean, I think for all of us, it's just been such an eye opener to really engage with that and experience it and understand the meaning there. And of course, we always express at this organization how important it is to honor and respect tribal treaty rights and so on. But I mean, there's like no clearer example of, I mean, we built a dam that has blocked fish passage there. And the fact that we've kind of seen this region come together from all angles to say, like, let's do something about this. Man, that is just, I like it. It really is. It's such a cool thing to see and experience and have a small part of. And I'm so glad you were able to be there and to get to see that in person. And like I said, hopefully one day I'll be joining you on that journey.
That'd be cool. Yeah. And I also got to meet Dr. Michelle. He's the executive director for the UCA. And it was really interesting to hear his background and how much he has really devoted his life to that organization. And I mean, I even got to see him again in another event that Northwest RiverPartners had with multiple tribal entities. And it was just really interesting to see how there's this desire of continuing a relationship, a working relationship, a positive one. And it was great to see that, to people just, again, going back to my original statement of people want to be heard.
Yeah.
Something to be done about it.
Absolutely.
And there are ways to, I don't know if the best phrasing would be to coexist, but to work together, right? I mean, there's an image that Clark has in one of his presentations. It has this Venn diagram. He's like, it's always left or right, but can we let's work on this part, the middle part, the part that there is possibilities. I mean, heck, it's already happening. It's just, can we do it better, but here without having to lean one way or the other?
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that we haven't hit on today? Is anything, I know we've talked about a lot and we're winding down here, but I mean, what, is there anything else that's like, oh man, I wish you would have asked me that?
I honestly, part of me is just kind of excited. I was able to stay on point. Usually my head wanders and I'll start going on rabbit trails. So the fact that I even stuck to somewhat of a conversation, I'm kind of proud of myself. But I would say to anybody that listens that I see in the community in the upcoming months and the future is I would appreciate to ask questions, to be curious, and most importantly, to be patient with me. I'm still learning. I hope to get to the level of, truly being an expert on the system.
Yeah.
And be able to really share that information and represent it the right way. And I know I'll do my best now and I'll keep improving. And I'm very excited for these upcoming events and where that's going to take us. I mean, heck, we might learn that, hey, this isn't the way to go. We should try something different. That's fine.
Yeah.
That is okay. And yeah, let's have some conversations, build some relationships, and
absolutely
keep these friendships going.
Well, I'll be learning right along with you because it never really stops. So,
Oh, and I'll be definitely be texting you or emailing you just randomly. What's this? I mean, I've already done it, I think. I know. Sometimes I was like, should I wait? I'll just text him tomorrow.
Well, let me ask you one last question here. I guess I have one question to ask you, but I have to ask you a question before the question.
Okay, cool.
Have you ever listened to the podcast before? No shame if you haven't, because I don't expect everyone to have the time to listen to an hour and a half long conversation about hydropower and some specific topic.
I did actually, especially because I'm on the road a lot. So,
Mm.
getting things audio stuff, it's nice. And I'm a big like Audible person or Spotify person. So, I'll be honest, which I think, this was my first full podcast event. This damn was the first one that I ever listened to. Other podcasts that I've heard are like like TikTok clips,
Right?
So this is the first one that I like stuck through. So, haha. It was the one with the Port of Whitman. That was the first one I listened to. I listened to the one with, I want to say it was the Grain Commission or Grain. Who was it? And it was for sure.
Oh, I Washington Wheat Growers,
The
maybe.
Wheat Growers, that's what it was.
Yes. Yeah.
I listened to that one. But yeah, the one with the Port of Whitman. And honestly, the one that became interesting to me because I used to work with them and I know care on them. And it was kind of cool to hear their story and their perspective.
Yeah. So you might know what's coming next then, which is our final question of every podcast. So, and you've already, I mean, to be honest with you, you've already provided some really great insights on this already. But like I said, even when we were prepping for this, I always try and kind of come full circle. We start by talking about you and the person that you are, and we like to end with talking about you and the person you are. And I asked people that the way that I feel like we get the most like deep, genuine insight into what makes people who they are is to kind of put you on the spot a little bit and ask you to give us some advice. So if you were just to give general advice to anybody and it's like first thing that comes to mind, maybe it's something that you live by, maybe it's something that inspires you in your work, maybe you heard it a week ago and you're like, man, that's really good, I'm going to hang on to that. What would be some advice you would just throw out to anyone who's listening to this podcast right now?
Well, man, I know which one it is, but I don't. I mean, I'm probably gonna sound like Ted Lasso, which is not a bad one. It's a great show. But be curious. Be curious about things. I mean, it's ask the question, speaking up when you're curious. Actually look it up. Don't just go with the flow because so and so said it to you. Look it up and have an actual discussion with someone. When you ask the questions, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to not know. But again, to be curious about it, I really think is the root of everything. And then from there, be patient. If they don't agree with you, that's fine. Doesn't mean they're your enemy. It just means you just have a different perspective and you can go from there. Not everybody not everybody can express what they're feeling or where their stands as easy as others. So sometimes you just kind of have to find that common ground to have that discussion and hopefully come to a place that can still work together. I mean, hey, this is our home, kind of stuck with each other. Let's try to do the best, to make it better.
Absolutely. And I think I just getting to know you, I mean, you embody so much of that. And I'm really glad that that's a value that's already near and dear to our team. And you've brought so much more of that. And so just really appreciate that. And I'm super excited for people to get to know you. Hopefully, they get to hear this podcast today and get to meet you somewhere out on the road in the future here. And in the meantime, just really excited that we were able to do this. We were able to share your story and I'd say thanks for making the time, but I kind of nudged you into it a little bit. So,
and I honestly, thank you. I was just worried I was going to say something dumb. Maybe I did. Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure. And I hope to meet any of the people that are listening out in the community. It would be great to say hi in person.
Thanks for giving this one a listen. I really enjoy every conversation with Victor, and today's podcast was just like any other day of getting to work together. It's clear that listening back during the editing process, that Victor is just a natural fit for the role and the organization at large, and we're incredibly excited to have him on our team. As always, if you've got a story to share with us or have any other reason to reach out, you can always do so by contacting us through our contact form on nwriverpartners.org. If that's not your thing, you can always just send us an email directly to info@nwriverpartners.org or send us a message on any of our social media channels. Look up NW River Partners on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, and LinkedIn if you want to find us there. I won't lie, we've been hitting a lot of roadblocks with booking guests lately, so if you're a fan of this podcast, and I assume you are if you've listened this far in, I would really appreciate your suggestions for guests and topics for us to explore so that we can keep this great podcast rolling along. Speaking of helping us out, please share the show with everyone you know and leave a positive review on your favorite listening platform of choice to help us continue to grow our audience. While you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to DAM and turn on notifications so you don't miss new episodes when they arrive. Until next time, see ya.